Hello.
Susan Leighton.
Hey, Susan, it's Johnny C. McGinley. How are you?
Hey, I am fine, John. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thanks for making the time.
Okay. Hey, let's get started because I have a lot of ground I want to cover with you. And I just wanted to say, season 2 this year, everybody's performances were terrific. But I don't think the fans are going to be prepared for the finale.
Something occurred to me last week when I watched it again. I wanted to spot something in 207, and then I just kept watching into 208. And I wanted to spot something specific, and I did. But in the meantime, I got swept up in the arc of those 2 episodes. I'm so overwhelmed by the way 207 and 208 came together. I want everybody to see if we can't do some kind of 36-hour blitz. I at least want everybody to watch these 2 episodes again, because what I have to say is that this is the finest hour of programming ever produced. And it took 14 episodes. It took Dana and I 14 episodes and 2 years. And what those 2 years, 14 episodes yielded was the most stunning hour of programming that IFC has ever produced. Not like this. This is epic. It's such a stunning thing to say about Stan against Evil. Obviously, I'm really proud of it. And I know the first thing everybody's going to think is that they did something wrong, but they didn't. It's the opposite of that. I want everybody just maybe wring something out of this cloth that they haven't before. If they've been sitting on some thing that they really wanted to do all year, do it for the next 2 days.
You can see that throughout this whole story arc, like you said, Stan and Evie, they've grown very fond of each other. And I know when Janet spoke to us, she compared the relationship to father-daughter.
I agree. I think Dana has always said, and I don't think he was trying to be cute, he always said that Evie is the daughter he never had. Now, that's not to disparage Deborah's character at all. Deborah is, she's the Jonathan Winters of her generation. She's a genius improvisational actor, and we've tailored the role to accentuate those strengths. Janet is, at first, you almost want to say she's the son he never had, but that's not it at all. She's the daughter that he never had, and that's so great. It's not like he has an axe to grind or there's something inadequate about Deborah's character, about Denise, but Evie is just such a badass. She's the female Harrison Ford. I'm overwhelmingly fond and in awe of both of those actors, that as we've tailored their arcs to their strengths, both of them have just exploded. I think that the way Dana constructed Stan to make him such an interesting anti-hero, that what compels Stan to do the right thing at the last second is so ass backwards, it's beyond delicious. And what compels him to do the right thing at the last second? He'll go kicking and screaming, and he'll have to be dragged into doing the right thing. And the only reason he'll do the right thing is because he doesn't want to hear about it if he doesn't do it. Which is the best thing ever. Ever. That's what compels you? Because you don't want to hear people whining and complaining that you didn't do the right thing? That's great. It's great. It's the opposite of Lancelot. It's the opposite of any hero scenario ever. He just doesn't want to hear about it. So, okay, now we'll go do the right thing. And that's what compels him. It's great. It's just so subversive and fantastic.
It truly is. But in listening to you, it's a very human response. Because not everyone wants to be a hero. But
Stan has no interest.
Right.
He lost his wife. I mean, that's all I ever talk about. He lost his wife. He lost his job. He wants to watch the History Channel. He can't even do that because Hitler comes on. And so it's just everything. It's just, no one will leave him alone. And even when he's being left alone, there's a couple hundred witches who want to kill him. Everything is just completely gone sideways.
And he never sleeps.
Fantastic. It's such chaos.
How do you think the fans are going to respond?
To the finale?
To the finale, yes.
I have a feeling the response is going to be almost an anger at 8 episodes, which is the new normal, unfortunately. I think it's not adequate storytelling to make this. It's going to be unfathomable that's it until next year.
Right.
It's going to seem unfair because look, Dana wrote this amazing arc for Stan this year, and I'm always about finding the uber verb for what he or she is doing. And Stan's verb this year was to get whole, and the only way he could get whole, and this is ridiculous, but is to get Evie, is to get Claire, his wife, and she's dead. So that's the most ridiculous uber objective. Your wife's dead, and now you're telling me that you want to get her. Well, she's dead, and that he's undeterred. And first he does the right thing, and he gets Janet back, and then armed with that technology, as you know, he figures, and a little bit of knowledge for Stan can be dangerous. And he figures, well, if I could get Evie, I could get Claire, and that's just, it proved to be this overwhelmingly emotional arc for Stan. Whether it's getting on his knees to Eccles' daughter in the second episode of the year and begging on his knees, which is absolutely the first time he's ever been on his knees in his life. On his knees, begging this child to help him. Begging to take that note and send it back. And from that kind of set us off, shooting it that night. And it felt like we were playing the real stakes, that if you really are going to get whole, if you, Stan, are going to get whole, and the way you'll get whole, you'll be made whole again, is to get Claire. Okay, have at it.
How, as an actor, do you prepare for that type of moment? Now, I know you have the dialogue in front of you, but that is very draining emotionally, mentally, to inhabit someone else. How do you circumvent that, John? How do you do that?
Most everything for me goes back to Max, my son Max. And so I borrow from Max's sensibilities and my relationship with Max, and I kind of tentacle out from there. And when I talk to different special needs parents and caregivers, and then when I also advocate for our community, everything is fed by that love. And then it's this rich deposit that I can draw from. And it's emotionally immediately available to me. I don't have to dig very far. It's right below the surface for me. And sometimes, unfortunately, I wear it on my sleeve, and that's when I really can't, I can't suffer bullies, and I can't suffer people who use the R word, and maybe I could be a little clearer spoken about it or more delicate, but I don't care anymore. I don't care about being delicate about people who disparage the special needs community, and so all of my Max love is immediately available to me, and I guess I triangulate it to serve moments like that.
How do you, if you said you wish you could articulate better, but how is the R word for you, if you had a message to give to people and explaining how that's hurtful to those who may not understand, what would you say?
That's when I get in trouble. The only way to do it, the way to do it in a work environment is ask somebody if there's not a better way to put that. That's the socially acceptable way that Tim Schreiber has shared with me. And then people go, put what? And you say, well, you just used the word retard to describe the party over the weekend. And they go, oh. And you're like, yeah, well, my cousin is Steve was born with Down syndrome, and that's really offensive to me. And now all of a sudden you're having a conversation. And so I wish I could do that more often. The really horrible way to do it is to use language that mirrors the R word. And that usually destroys a cocktail party or ruins dinner. But the person will stop using the words retard and retarded.
That's a perfect message. You have to start a dialogue with things like that. And I just wanted to say thank you for everything you do with Down syndrome, with the Global Down Syndrome Foundation. I applaud you for that, and I think you're doing an excellent job, John. I really do. Thank you for that. Now, I noticed that in episode 7, it's pretty much BAU for Stan. And you had some incredibly business as usual.
Oh, right.
Yep. You had some incredibly humorous moments with Denise. And I wanted to know how much, because your comedic delivery, Office Space, all of the things that you've done, Wild Hogs, and then, of course, Scrubs, you never fail to make me laugh, and I know others as well. And I wonder how much of what you do is scripted, and do you improvise any bits? Because I know Dana mentioned in the live tweet last Wednesday, he said that some of your ad-libs when you were in the car with the crow weren't suitable for family viewing.
No, they weren't. It was about 115 degrees in that car, and I was flailing at the heat and the make pretend crows. I'd say, look, television's so fast. I mean, Stand Against Evil, we shoot 8 episodes in 4 weeks and 4 days, which is preposterous. It's not even 5 weeks because we start the Tuesday following Memorial Day. So that because the schedule is so tight, 4 weeks and 4 days for 8 episodes, you got to say what's on the page. And when actors don't say what Dana wrote, which, by the way, you're going to want to say what Dana put on the page. Trust me. I don't care if you stayed up all night trying to come up with different stuff. Dana's is better than yours. If you happen to come up with something organic on the day that was sparked by a condition or an event that happened right after somebody called action, then great. That stuff that might be usable. But because there's no time, we're going to do 2 or 3 takes and we're moving on. We're not doing 20 takes. This is not going to be exploration of your ancestors and contemplating your belly button between action and cut. We're doing 2 or 3 takes and we're moving on. And you're going to want to say what Dana put on the page. Trust me, it's really good. And when people don't do that, I tend to ride them a little bit. I'm kind of the script police. Because I know the script backwards. Because Dana gets it to us. Luckily, he gets it to us a couple of months ahead of time. And even those early drafts are magnificent. And I know them backwards. And I encourage all the actors to rehearse all 8 episodes prior to getting to Atlanta, like a play, because we are going to shoot out of order. And let's say the police station, once we land at the police station interior, we're going to shoot that thing out. So we're going to shoot your stuff from 1, 2, 5, and 7 this morning. So if something dramatic happened to you between 1 and 5 and 7, you better be able to incorporate it in what we're doing this morning, because we're not coming back here. And so the next time we're going to come back to the office, the production design people will have destroyed it, like at the end of 208. And so we can't shoot there again. And so I have the actors rehearse all 8 episodes in Los Angeles, independent of each other, like a play, because we are going to leapfrog around. And it is your responsibility to know the circumstances that will influence every single train stop we have in the script. And the ensemble has done that between Nate and Deborah and Janet and Randall, who plays Eccles. That core ensemble has done that, and it's yielded profound dividends. In
what you're saying to me, this is John, the producer, speaking. and I remember, and forgive me for paraphrasing this statement, that you once said producers keep the original vision of the project pure.
Hopefully.
Right.
If he or she has enough spine to protect the writer's vision. I mean, you can never tell with the director what. I always serve the script. That's my thing, because you never know who's going to show up as a director. And if somebody shows up and if they're 1 degree better than a traffic cop, then fine. And traffic cop being someone on a set who just tells you, enter here, go there, and then leave there. That's a traffic cop. And when you're leaving, someone's going to bump into you, and you'll recognize them, and then we'll call cut. That's a traffic cop. Now, if somebody can elevate beyond just being a traffic cop, then great, that's a bonus. But for actors to ever rely on that is folly. You have to serve the words. What's on the page and what brought you here, 99 times out of 100 wasn't the director, since they're a dime a dozen. It was the words somebody put on the page. It's what Dana put on the page. It's what Billy Lawrence put on the page. It's what Oliver Stone put on the page. That's where you're going. So you got to serve the words. And you can't serve the words unless you know them backwards, unless you've deconstructed them and made them your own, and own them and know them in any sequence. It doesn't matter. Just call action. I already did so much homework. I own them. I'm serving the words. That's my mantra with actors.
And that's a good mantra to have, because if you can serve the words, if you know what you're doing beforehand, to me that translates as truth on screen.
Absolutely. 100%.
That's just how I see it as a viewer, and always coming prepared no matter what walk of life you're in. I think that is a good motto, John, to have. I think it serves you well throughout life, not just with acting.
Oh, 100%.
Now,
look,
yeah.
Acting in particular, especially in front of a lens, in front of a camera, I don't care if it's a TV or a film camera, the whole thing is a big fat lie, right? I'm not Stan. That's a lie. I'm John McGinley. So, and Janet Varney is not Evie. She's Janet Varney. And so the whole thing's a lie. So if that's the given, then how are we going to do this? And the way we're going to do it is we're going to try to reduce the profundity of the lie. And the way you do that is homework and owning it, so that when someone calls action, the lens doesn't say, look, the lens is like a lie detector test. It can say, it knows everything. And so you have to reduce how profound the lie is. And Oliver did it by shipping people off to a boot camp for 2 weeks during Platoon. And at the end of those 2 weeks, the lie had been reduced because the actors' imaginations had been stimulated enough and exposed to deprivation that they could take a leap into what was going on in Southeast Asia for these young kids in the 60s. And the lens suffers the lie less. And so that's what good acting is. You can somehow figure it out, and there's no one way to do it. Some people can roll out of bed. Maybe Brando could roll out of bed, and I didn't know Brando, but maybe some people once in a generation can roll out of bed and reduce the profundity of a lie. I can't. I got to beat the script up. I got to verb it to death. I got to rehearse it with my coach. I got to knock it around. I got to own it, and then you can call action, and then I can reduce the depth of a lie, and it'll come off. It'll come off right, or my perception of right.
Whenever you have to do something like play a good and bad version of yourself, like Stan, because I know you've done this in countless movies, on television shows. How much fun do you have with that? How much fun do you, because when you play...
It's only fun for me if the preparation yields liberation. If I'm liberated by all the preparation, then I have a gas. I have so much fun on Stan because I have the script a couple of months ahead of time. I have a rehearsal space here in Los Angeles that I descend into, and when I come out, I'm ready to go to Georgia, and then it's fun. But I turn down things all the time when they call me Wednesday to ship off on Friday to shoot on Monday. I don't want to. That's not a thing. Some people can do it. I can't. I guess I could, but I don't care enough. The fun for me, the crossword puzzle of it all, is rehearsal. That's the fun part. You're trying to figure this thing out. Anybody can just go on a set and pull a rabbit out of their ass. It's a big deal. The fun part is to try to figure it out.
And now, I know because you're so thorough, like we've been talking about, and I know this season, the shine, so to speak, is kind of off the apple for Stan. Now,
right.
How do you see him evolving? Do you think he's learned anything from his experiences?
My objective for the first year was always be getting to the chair. That's where, after all that loss and this new loneliness and this void in his life of his wife being gone and his job being taken away from him, I wanted him in the chair. And every time he wasn't in the chair, he was in the wrong place, the wrong time, doing the wrong thing. And that was the most sedentary objective I've ever given a character in the history of what I've done. And it, because usually you want to give somebody a really active verb and you want them to be moving towards something. And I was like, no, I have a genius idea. Stan should just be in his chair. And whenever he's not in his chair, it's wrong. He's in the wrong place. And that it served the first season so well. And then when Dana wrote that arc about Claire in the second season, I was like, oh, he needs to get whole. And I'm like, okay. Then I'm so, well, I already told you, I'm so excited about 207, 208. I'm about to have a conference call and rip people's heads off. Although I can't do that. I have to be more productive than that. And so third season, if the verb, and I'm making it up here, but if Stan tries to fit in, I can't wait to see what it looks like Stan fitting in. It's anathema to his whole sensibility. But if Claire being taken away from him and him trying to get whole, that didn't work for him. Being in the chair didn't work for him. So now it feels like kind of a natural progression might be to try to fit in. And it makes me laugh even saying that. Even saying that makes me laugh. Stan fitting in, which is impossible. Oh, God, give me those scripts. Please give me those scripts.
Now, since we're so psyched about the finale and, you're evidently enthusiastic about the potential to expand Stan for season 3, how do you feel about the Fans Unite movement to save Stan and Ash versus Evil Dead? Do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Just that the glass is half full, and that I think the combined efforts of the show's quality and the fans' enthusiasm is untouchable. You can't get near that. When the show's this good, 207 and 208, never mind the whole second season, but when the shows are as good as 207 and 208, and then this movement, when that starts to happen, you can't get near that. That's the stuff that dreams are made of. It's fantastic. It gives me chills. It makes me happy every time. I mean, we're not doing the show so people can show it in the closet at Thanksgiving. We're making it so the most amount of people can enjoy it and be moved by it and get a laugh and be spooked. And that's starting to happen. And there's a core group that is spearheading it. It's the loveliest thing in the history of the planet.
Yes, they are very passionate because they love the show. They love what you do. They've followed you, everything that you've done. You mentioned the live tweeting, and what you were just telling me is to me personally, it's extremely fascinating. But I think why your show, in my opinion, works is I've seen, because I've participated in the live tweets, the back and forth that you all have with fans. They love that. That just engages them even more. And to hear you say that's your favorite thing ever, they're going to love that. And they get that off of you, off of Janet, off of
I'm not
Deborah.
Exaggerating. We didn't have that on Scrubs. You got to remember, in 2017, live tweeting is better than, when we live tweet, there's a couple 100,000 people that it impacts. And back when we were doing Scrubs, everybody would fight to get on Letterman, and they'd fight to get on Leno and Conan. And, those shows do about 1 million people a night. When you go to Comic-Con, and I'll make this up, when you do Bob's podcast, that podcast goes out to 4 million people. And they're 18 to 35, and they're much more likely to watch Stan. And so it's just become a fascinating evolution of the way shows get promoted and spread. And I love it. I'm all for it.
It's great.
I wish we stayed for 3 days. It's fantastic.
Now, I know, and you're very active on Twitter with your fans, too. And personally,
I think it's great.
I wanted to applaud you for that, because there are so many celebrities out there that they don't engage their fans on Twitter. They don't make it a little more personal. Now, I understand that, you have to have a distance, and that's understandable. But the way that you interact with your fans, that only endears you more to them, and I think it really helps with the show. But that's just my opinion.
I agree. I don't. Again, I don't produce stands so that the cast can show it to their aunts and uncles in a closet alone in Phoenix. I want people to see the show. We bust our ass on Stan, and I want it seen. And if the different best ways to get it seen include Twitter and social interaction, great. I'm all for it. I love it.
Do you ever envision that you guys will do any sort of blooper reels?
Somebody brought that up last. I then asked Dana about that. There have to be hours of bloopers from the first 16 episodes, and so I guess that's an IFC programming question. But God, I don't know how you don't do a blooper reel.
Right.
Because I edit the show with Dana, and the amount of bloopers we edit out could fill an hour, and they're funny.
I imagine.
And Janet and Deborah are they swing for the fences, man. And when you go that hard and you're that skilled and talented and gifted as those three are, you make mistakes, and the mistakes are usually pretty good.
Oh, well, I know there would definitely be a market out there for the blooper reels, definitely. Because
I'd be very surprised if we don't. I saw that on the live tweeting last week. I'd be very surprised if we don't end up having some kind of blooper reel. It's just too great an idea. Plus, you got to remember, blooper reels were great because it doesn't cost anybody anything. It's just Dana back in the editing room, and we already have all those. There's a whole bucket of bloopers. And so it's not like you got to go out and shoot anything. I mean, that's just found money as far as programming goes. I'd be very surprised if there's not a blooper reel.
I'm sure we'll all be looking forward to that. I hope, from your lips to the universe, I think that would be a tremendous idea for Stan. The fans would love it. And I was also wondering, I don't know if you're aware of this, but did you know that you and Janet are being called the dynamic duo by the fans because of your chemistry?
No, I think we'd be happy, though.
Yes.
I hero worship Janet. She knows it. I absolutely hero worship her. And I just, what she's done with Evie, what in kind of a screwball, I'm a huge screwball comedy guy. And screwball dictates that the protagonist has to be a female, and she has to drive the narrative. And, from Barbara Stanwyck to Lucille Ball to Rosalind Russell, I mean, these are my heroes. And that Janet can fit into that mold is it's pretty for John McGinley. That's the biggest compliment I can give you, because it's impossible. And she can turn Screwball over in her sleep, those sensibilities and those moves, and it's hard. You have to play unbelievably sophisticated notes, like sardonic and glib and ironic. Most of us can't do that, and Janet can do it in her sleep. And Dana can write to it, and so that she can drive a screwball flavor in Stan is astonishing. It's astonishing, and we wove as much of that tone into season 2 as we could, because she started doing it at the end of season 1, or we started to identify it. And Dana and I are both screwball film fanatic geeks, and Janet can do that. She can execute that, and that's impossible. That's why there's not that much screwball. I mean, Sandra Bullock can do it. There's a couple of people who can do it, and Janet can do it in her sleep. For 208, Janet should be nominated for an Emmy in her sleep, what she does in 208. I mean, she does a one-woman show in 208. It's as good as anything we ever did on Scrubs.
Those 2 episodes I'm sure we'll pull them in. Definitely.
I agree. That's my thinking as well, David. And you know, if the pushback is, well, if people haven't been watching Stan, they're not going to jump in at the end of the season, and that's wrong. That's wrong. There's no better time to get in, because they stand alone. If you turn on 207, you can look. This isn't what's the most sophisticated show. This isn't Neil deGrasse doing. This is Stan. You can, if you turn it on, you get it pretty quick. It's not like you needed to have seen all 14. It'd be great if you saw all 14. It would make the backstories richer. But if you turn on 207, you're in. You're in. You're definitely not turning it off before 208, I guarantee you. And if you watch 208, you will put it on your DVR and you will watch it every week.
Because I truth be told, I saw those episodes like 3 or 4 times. They were just that great.
I've seen them 300 or 400 times because we cut them. Yeah.
Well, obviously, yeah. If you're editing them, and when you played Evil Stan, oh my God, when Denise said something to you in the kitchen and you're like, oh snap, I just lost that. And I was wondering, was that actually that was probably in Dana's script, I'm assuming?
No, it wasn't, but he threw it to me as an improv. I'm better at people feeding me improvisational lines than coming up with them. Like, I came up with a bunch of exit lines on Scrubs. People think I rewrote Billy all the time. I never rewrote Billy. I would never. And Dana just said, "Oh, give her an oh snap," and I was like, "Oh, it's genius. Let's go." Oh, and then it just Stan saying oh snap or anti-Stan saying oh snap is. Are you kidding me? It's the best.
It was very, very funny. And another part that I liked is when you're like, "Oh, he's on the move."
Oh, he's on the move.
Yeah, that was great.
Love that.
How did you like working with Jeffrey Combs? Because the 2 of you had really good chemistry, especially in the bar.
He was great. He was great. He didn't need any direction. He had a lot of different ideas, and Dana's loved him for a long time, and he was. Look, there were 2 takeaways from season 1. The first was, let Deborah do her own thing in Deborah world. So in other words, Deborah doesn't need a well-constructed, dialogue-driven scene to flourish. She can open a phone book and make me laugh, because she's like Neil Flynn in Scrubs. She's one of these really gifted improvisational actors who can, just on action, she can do stuff. It's not on the page. And so Dana crafted different worlds, whether she's building that pony town for the were-pony, or whether she's trying to put the towel rack back together. Which destroyed it. We were falling out. We had to fix the sound because everybody kept falling apart. And so that was one of the takeaways, was to just let Deborah flourish in Deborah land. And the other was, as fantastic as Atlanta is for crew, the talent pool in New York and Los Angeles is obviously the richest on the planet. And so, while we didn't have the budget to fly people in first year, we brought a couple of people in this year, and it was just it changed the level. Look, when Dana writes those great guest stars, you got to bring in people who can crush it. And we didn't do that a couple of times first year, and we had to shape some storylines around our mistakes, casting mistakes. We didn't make that mistake this year. So when you get, Combs coming in and you get Ogg coming in, you get David coming in, I mean, and even though it's not in the budget, we borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, and those actors came in and they redefined the second season. Keckner will definitely be back. I guarantee you.
Oh, he was great.
It's too good. It's too good. As her ex-husband, it's just too good.
And the interchanges between the two of you were priceless. With the cargo shorts, that was just great.
Cargo shorts was genius. You don't try them on. You love the oh God, Dana's the best. He puts all that on the page.
I've followed Dana since he was. I followed Dana when he was a young stand-up comedian, and his career through The Simpsons. And he's a comedic genius. And I love the fact that he's also a horror geek, and that he. And I wanted to ask you about that, because typically when people think of you, John, they don't think, oh, John McGinley, horror actor, genre guy. Because you've been blessed with a career that's all over the map, and people know you from everything.
Like Intensity.
Oh, yes.
Or the one that Johnny Cusack and I did with Mangold, Identity. And then I did another Dean Koontz one called Soul Survivor. And then I did one with Marley Matlin, a scary one up in Portland, Oregon, called Hear No Evil. I'm pretty good on more scary than horror. More
right.
Scary.
Right. Because Stan is definitely more of a horror comedy.
Yeah, you're right.
Not gore, which is what serves it well. And it does remind me a lot of Darren McGavin and Kolchak the Night Stalker.
That's Dana's favorite.
Oh, yeah. Because, Dana and I are close in age, because when we were growing up, that was the show. And even Chris Carter from the X-Files, that's his model, too, for that show. That's what we had growing up. We didn't have a plethora of that kind of weird offbeat things to watch,
No, of course not.
I remember Circle of Fear, which was on NBC in the early 70s, that lasted about a hot minute, with Sebastian Cabot as...
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I loved that, and then that went away. But I wanted to ask you this, because this is kind of disturbing for people that do like the type of product that Dana and yourself are putting out. With the demise of Chiller now, how do you feel it's going for, the type of genre horror comedy? What are your thoughts on that?
Because the landscape of television has gotten so wide, if great writers want to park great material someplace, there's room. So it's Dana Gould, who was in the Simpsons writing room for 9 or 10 years, running the Simpsons writers room. If he comes out and says, "Oh, the whole time I was in the Simpsons writers room, the whole time I was preoccupied with this one thing I wanted to do. It's about this older guy who's haunted by witches, and it's kind of Archie Bunker fighting witches." People are lining up, and they will. When great writers are compelled to move towards television, because everything is Marvel and tentpole action movies at the studio. And so writers are going to television because they want to see their content exhibited. And so these are the good old days in television. All the great writers are doing TV now. That's why there's so much great television on. The DVR is full.
And
good. I'm a TV junkie. And the great stuff is delicious right now.
Well, and who would have thought, years ago, that you would have seen somebody like Sir Anthony Hopkins on a show? on Westworld. How would you have even, you wouldn't have even conceived of that. And now Comic-Cons, I remember back in the day, were always people like your Adam West, and then
right.
William Shatner jumped on board. But now you're starting to see like your Robert Downey Jr.'s there and different people. It's like, horror and that type of genre, it seems like, there is a market for it. And cable is where the future, at least I think it is, where actors are going to go because they're showing up in droves.
Yeah, but don't sleep on network TV. Network TV, there are too many resources there. Now that network TV has kind of reached a low, I don't know when, but trust me, those guys they'll find a way back in. They just will.
Yeah.
They're not going out of business, so they'll find a way back in. I guarantee it. I have no inside information or anything like that. It's just once you get this far down, that's when you bet on network television will make a comeback. I guarantee it.
Because you are starting to see a little bit of that now with shows like The Orville on Fox.
Absolutely. Good Doctor.
Yep, The Good Doctor. That is
a shift on that. And those are good shows.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think
they'll make a comeback. They have too many resources.
Right.
Too many smart people. Whatever the failings have been, they'll.
Right. Well, John, I've just had a great time talking with you.
Okay, super. We'll talk when we have a celebration party for year 3 being announced.
Great.
All the best. I will chat with you on what do you call it? On
Twitter.
Night.
Okay, great.
On Twitter.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, bye now.